Imagine building something more valuable than the combined worth of the Burj Khalifa, the Vatican, and Fort Knox. Without electricity, without cranes, without modern technology. The year is 966 BC. The place is Jerusalem, a city perched on ancient hills, about to witness the most expensive construction project in human history. Thousands of workers move under the relentless Middle Eastern sun, hauling stones covered in pure gold, carrying cedar beams from distant forests, transporting bronze pillars that weigh more than 20 tons each. But this story isn't just about construction. It's about a promise made generations before. It's about a young king with something to prove. It's about a structure so magnificent that ancient historians would struggle to describe it without sounding like they were exaggerating. And it's about a building that would become the very center of an entire civilization. A place where heaven and earth were believed to meet. This is the story of Solomon's temple, the most valuable, most sacred, and most controversial building ever erected in Jerusalem. And it all started with an impossible dream. Before Solomon, Jerusalem was a fortified city, but it lacked something crucial: a permanent dwelling place for the God of Israel. For centuries, the Ark of the Covenant, the golden chest containing the Ten Commandments, had traveled with the Israelites in a portable tent called the Tabernacle. From the wilderness of Sinai to the plains of Shiloh, God's presence moved with his people. But now, under King David, Israel had become a unified kingdom. David had conquered Jerusalem, established it as his capital, and brought the ark into the city with great celebration. Yet there was a profound tension. David lived in a palace of cedar, while the ark remained in a tent. The prophet Nathan brought David a message from God. You will not build the temple. Your son will. David had been a warrior, a man of blood. The temple would require a man of peace. That man would be Solomon. By the time Solomon ascended to the throne around 970 BC, Israel was at the height of its power, wealthy, secure, and ready for something monumental. The stage was set. Solomon was young when he became king, but he possessed something rare: wisdom granted directly by God. When given the chance to ask for anything, Solomon didn't ask for long life, riches, or victory over enemies. He asked for wisdom to govern justly. God granted it, and everything else along with it. But Solomon knew something critical. His legitimacy as king was not universally accepted. His path to the throne had been contested, marked by political intrigue and the elimination of rivals. Building the temple wasn't just a religious act. It was political validation. It was national unity. It was his father's unfulfilled dream becoming his own legacy. For Solomon, this temple would prove he was the rightful king chosen by God. It would centralize worship, consolidate power, and create a permanent symbol of God's covenant with Israel. This wasn't just architecture. This was his claim to eternity, and he was willing to pour the entire wealth of a nation into it. In the 4th year of his reign, Solomon made the announcement: the temple of the Lord would be built. Not a modest sanctuary, not a simple shrine, a structure so magnificent that every nation would know the God of Israel was supreme. He sent word throughout the kingdom and beyond. To King Hiram of Tyre, he wrote, "Send me cedar logs from Lebanon. Send me craftsmen skilled in gold, silver, and bronze." He conscripted 30,000 laborers from Israel. He employed 70,000 carriers and 80,000 stonecutters in the hill country. He gathered materials that would make the project the most expensive ever undertaken in the ancient world. The commitment was total. The resources were unlimited. The vision was unprecedented, and the world was watching. Solomon had made his decision. Now came the impossible part, actually building it. The challenges were staggering. First, the location, Mount Moriah, a rocky hilltop with uneven terrain where Abraham had once nearly sacrificed Isaac. This sacred site had to be leveled and expanded to create a platform large enough for a massive complex. Second, the materials. Solomon demanded the finest cedar and cypress from Lebanon, trees that had to be cut, transported hundreds of miles, floated down the Mediterranean coast, then hauled up into the mountains. He required massive stones, some weighing up to 50 tons, quarried with bronze tools, shaped perfectly, and moved without modern machinery. Third, the gold. Ancient records describe gold overlaying nearly everything: walls, floors, cherubim, the altar, even chains. Conservative estimates suggest over 20 tons of gold were used. At today's prices, that alone would exceed $1.5 billion just for the gold. Fourth, the bronze. Two massive pillars, named Jachin and Boaz, stood at the entrance, each over 27 feet tall, cast from bronze. The Bronze Sea, ceremonial basin, held over 11,000 gallons of water and rested on 12 bronze oxen. And perhaps most impossible of all, this had to be done in complete silence. No hammer, chisel, or iron tool could be heard at the temple site during construction. Every stone had to be perfectly cut at the quarry. How? The engineering was revolutionary. Solomon's workers used a technique called ashlar masonry. Stones cut so precisely they fit together without mortar. Each block was shaped at the quarry using bronze saws, copper chisels, and abrasive sand. Marks were carved into each stone, indicating its exact placement. Transportation required wooden sledges, rollers, and likely thousands of workers pulling in coordinated teams. Ramps and levers were used to position stones weighing multiple tons. The temple itself was 90 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 45 feet high, modest by today's megachurch standards. But the interior was unlike anything ever created. Floors of cypress overlaid with gold, walls of cedar carved with gourds, open flowers, cherubim, and palm trees, then covered in gold. The most holy place, the inner sanctuary, was a perfect cube. 30 feet in every dimension, walls, floor, and ceiling completely covered in pure gold. Inside stood two cherubim made of olive wood, each 15 feet tall, wings outstretched, also overlaid with gold. The doors were made of olive wood, carved with intricate designs, hinged with gold. Hiram of Tyre sent his master craftsman, also named Hiram, to oversee the metalwork. He cast the bronze pillars, the sea, the basins, the utensils, the lampstands. Everything was crafted with obsessive precision. Everything served a purpose. And after 7 years of continuous work, it was complete. The most magnificent structure the ancient world had ever seen. Imagine walking through Jerusalem on a festival day. The streets are packed with pilgrims from every tribe of Israel, families carrying lambs, merchants selling doves, priests in linen garments moving through the crowds. You approach the Temple Mount, and the first thing you see is blinding brilliance. The sun reflecting off gold-covered walls. The smell of incense mixed with roasting meat from sacrifices fills the air. You hear the Levites singing psalms, accompanied by harps, lyres, and cymbals. Thousands of voices joining in worship. As you enter the outer courts, you see the massive bronze sea shimmering. Priests washing before performing rituals. You watch as a priest carries a lamb to the altar of burnt offering, where fire burns continuously, day and night. Smoke rises toward heaven. The inner courts are restricted, Only priests can enter. But you know what lies beyond. The holy place with its golden lampstand, table of showbread, an altar of incense. And beyond that, behind a thick veil, the most holy place, where the Ark of the Covenant rests, where the glory of God dwells, where once a year, on the Day of Atonement, the high priest enters alone. This wasn't just a building. It was the dwelling place of the Almighty. For nearly 4 centuries, the temple stood as the heart of Jewish life. Kings were crowned there. Prophets preached there. Festivals brought the nation together there. But then, something changed. A young rabbi from Nazareth arrived in Jerusalem. His name was Jesus. He walked through those same courts, taught in those same courtyards, overturned tables in those same outer areas where merchants exploited worshipers. He declared that something greater than the temple was here. The religious leaders were outraged. Who was this man to claim authority over the most sacred place in Israel? But Jesus did more than claim authority. He made a statement so shocking it would be used against him at his trial. Standing in the temple, he said, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The people were confused, enraged. It took 46 years to build this temple, and you will raise it in 3 days? They didn't understand. He wasn't talking about Herod's renovated structure. He was talking about his own body. The temple had always been a shadow pointing to something, someone greater. And now he stood in its courts, declaring that the old system was about to end. Jesus looked at the magnificent stones, the towering walls, the gold that still gleamed after centuries. His disciples marveled, "Teacher, look at these massive stones. Look at these buildings." And Jesus responded with words that must have seemed impossible. "Do you see all these great buildings? Not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down." The disciples were stunned. Destroy the temple? The center of their faith, their identity, their nation? How could that happen? But Jesus wasn't merely predicting destruction. He was announcing a transformation. The dwelling place of God was moving, no longer in a building made with hands, but in people. In 70 AD, exactly as Jesus prophesied, it happened. The Roman Empire, after years of Jewish revolt, had enough. General Titus laid siege to Jerusalem. The city was starving, desperate, divided. When the Roman legions finally broke through, they showed no mercy. They entered the Temple Mount with fire and sword. Soldiers, against Titus's orders, set the temple ablaze. The gold melted in the intense heat, seeping between the stone blocks. Roman soldiers, driven by greed, pried apart every stone to recover the gold. Literally, not one stone was left on another. The most holy place was violated, then obliterated. The Ark of the Covenant, already mysteriously missing for centuries, was never found. The sacrificial system ended in one catastrophic day. The priests had no altar. The people had no temple. Over 1 million Jews died in the siege. But here's what most people miss. The temple was never meant to be permanent. From the very beginning, it was a symbol pointing to reality. Solomon himself, at the dedication, asked, "But will God really dwell on earth? The heavens, even the highest heaven, cannot contain you. How much less this temple I have built." The temple was always about God's desire to dwell with his people. The problem was sin. Sin created separation. The veil in the most holy place represented that barrier. Only the high priest could enter once a year with blood. But when Jesus died on the cross, the veil in the temple tore from top to bottom. God ripped it open. The barrier was removed, not by human hands, by divine intervention. Jesus became the ultimate sacrifice, the final high priest, the true temple. When he rose from the dead, he fulfilled his own prophecy. The temple destroyed, raised in 3 days. The dwelling place of God was no longer a building in Jerusalem. It was Christ himself, and everyone who believes. Today, if you visit Jerusalem, you can see the Western Wall, a retaining wall from Herod's expansion, not even part of the temple itself. People pray there, weep there, place written prayers in its cracks, but the temple is gone. And according to Scripture, it will never be rebuilt in the way it was. Because the true temple isn't made of stone and gold. Paul wrote, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit? The dwelling place of God is now in hearts that believe. The glory that once filled Solomon's temple now lives in ordinary people transformed by grace." Perhaps the most valuable construction in Jerusalem was never just about the building. It was always about what it pointed to. A God who refuses to stay distant. A God who tears down barriers. A God who makes his home in us. The temple was magnificent, but what it represented is eternal.